Hey, it's Christian with St. Augustine TV. In the interest of civics, we are continuing to speak with local candidates running for county and city commission. Today, I'm sitting down with Sam Williams, who is running for County Commission District 4.
Yep.
Sam, it's good to meet you.
Meet you.
What caused you to run for St. Johns County Commission, Seat 4, and why now?
Well, now as an election was coming up, after serving a little over 30 years in the St. Johns County Sheriff's Office, I've got half of my life invested in this community, and I wanted to continue serving. I'm still young enough. I still have gas in the tank. I think there's things that we can do better.
Can you expand a little bit more for the viewers? What is your background with the county, and what are you bringing to the table?
Yes, I worked at the Sheriff's Office for 30 years. Just a little over 30 years. Started as a patrol deputy, eventually got promoted to the rank of sergeant, and then detective sergeant. From detective sergeant, I went to district commander for the Northeast District, which where District 4 is, and did that for several years. And later was promoted to the chief of patrol. After a short time in chief of patrol, the sheriff asked me to be the director of corrections, and I was not familiar with corrections, but I understand when you take on something that gets you out of your comfort zone, you grow as an individual. You learn, you progress, you get better at what you do. And so stepping into that role with 200 employees and a $22 million budget and 500 inmates, it had me very invested in this community. And this is where my wife and I raised our children. This is where our grandchild is being raised. And I want to see St. Johns County stay St. Johns County.
So what did you learn from your experience being in the Sheriff's Department and later in corrections?
So I learned how to be a leader. I took several leadership classes. I got my bachelor's degree from Flagler College. I attended the Southern Police Institute Command Officers Development course. I attended the Police Executive Research Forum Command class in Boston, and I also attended the Federal Bureau of Investigation's National Academy 2016. About 2 to 3% of law enforcement on the planet get that opportunity, so I was very blessed to be invited to that. I also learned in corrections that we have 500 inmates, but we also have 500 opportunities. What could I do as a jail director to change things so that when they got out, they didn't return back? So one thing is we have a thing called an inmate canteen fund. When they buy snacks and things like that, some of the money goes in there, and that money can be used for the inmates. Well, before I got there, maybe 1 or 2 GEDs were being done every 4 or 5 years. When I noticed that, I said, let's start using inmate canteen fund, because the biggest thing that prohibited them from doing that was not having the money. If they had $20, they were buying honey buns, not GED books. So we started buying the books, and we started doing 4 and 5 GEDs a year. We also have training programs when an inmate learns landscaping or culinary arts, things like that. We can train them when they get out. They have a talent. They now have a high school diploma. Opens a few more doors for them, because not everybody in the jail is bad. We have felonies and misdemeanors for a reason. And good people make mistakes and need a second chance. So those were some of the things I learned in my career, and how to lead people. There's a difference between managing people and leading people. And I had some great mentors, and I mentored a lot of people on how to be a leader as opposed to a manager.
We all make mistakes, and we all could use good leadership. Okay, let's talk development. That's a big, hot button topic for obvious reasons in St. Johns County. Now, do you think development has strengthened as it's being currently done? Has it strengthened St. Johns County, or is it consuming St. Johns County? There's a big difference there, And is the county building to keep up with demand, or is it building in effort to try to stimulate demand, trying to attract people here, get more people here? And finally, is St. Johns County at risk of becoming Anywhere USA? Those are three different questions, but
Yeah.
go ahead and tackle those.
Well, because they were lengthy, I wrote my answer down. But St. Johns County is a beautiful place. We're lucky to live here. Like I said, we live in paradise. We need to manage this development, but I don't think there's a problem with getting people to come to St. Johns County. It seems that we're just building St. Johns County, but we're not getting our infrastructure first. We should put our infrastructure before our building and build as the community needs. It's, we've got to put our people first. Our traffic has gotten a little bit out of control over the years, because when I started here in 1990, this traffic was nowhere near what it is now. As a motor officer with the St. Johns County Sheriff's Office, I spent many years doing that, but also as a traffic homicide investigator, I directed that traffic. I understand the traffic flows, the traffic patterns, and what's the causation of crashes and things that could be done a little better to get things done. We've got to, understand our development, and the community should be telling us what they want, what they don't want. Will it stimulate growth? It will, but a lot of people are already moving here, so we've got to get more involved in listening to our community, get some feedback, and say, what do y'all want? Because ultimately the county commissioners work for the community. The community is your boss. So go to your boss and say, what am I doing well? What do I need to do better? And take their feedback and apply that.
Yes. Okay. Should government primarily reflect the will of the current residents, or should it act as a steward for future generations, even when those interests conflict?
I think it should be simultaneous to a point. I think the will of the people should be the main driver, but we've also got to plan out our future. We need a long-term strategic plan for our infrastructure. Let's build the roads before the houses. We don't build our second floor before we do our foundation. But I think it's a little bit of both. But the will of the people should be the main driver.
Okay. The simplistic framing of this election is that there are those who are pro-growth and in developers' pockets versus those who want to slow the growth and are working for the people. What side are you on, and is that framing correct? And does that prevent us from talking about other things that are important?
It absolutely does. It divides us. And when we're divided and not united, we're not working on solutions. We're fighting. We're arguing back and forth. To say stop all growth is not realistic. I think you have to have some growth, but it needs to be managed and it needs to be limited. As my kids become adults, if they want to buy a new house, I don't want them to have to move to another county. I want them to be able to stay here, raise their children here. It's the development that we seem to have going on right now, I think was approved years and years ago. So it's not the current commissioners that may have done that, but we got to manage that. We got to say, before you build out this neighborhood, the road has to be set up for it in advance.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that I'm a little concerned about myself is that, there seems to be this idea that St. Johns County is just going to continue to, growth is just going to continue to skyrocket. The population is going to continue to skyrocket without any hiccups in between. And I'm a little concerned that we're already maybe oversubscribed in some areas, meaning that we already have so much stuff approved that, if we have an economic downturn, if there's a housing crisis, which could be, I was a real estate agent during the last housing crisis, and that really scarred me quite a bit. And we ended up with empty developments and abandoned developments and bankrupt people. And, I'm a little, I can see that there's a softening right now. So I guess I believe that maybe we're already a little bit too much.
Yeah, and there's a lot of developments going on, and the biggest thing that has caused the biggest problem, I think, with so many people is the traffic that it's caused. And sometimes, again, we're the cart's before the horse, and we've got to be better at our planning. The development it certainly appears to have been way out of control. And and it's starting to, hopefully we'll start to slow down some, but you're right. If we get this tax exemption, homestead exemption come through, it's going to limit some funds to the community. And how do we manage that? When I ran the jail, I had a $22 million budget. And just because you have the money doesn't mean you have to spend it. You got to be a good physically responsible with that. You have to understand, just because we have money, we don't need to spend it, but spend it for what you need to improve things. But I turn back maybe $1 million every year to the sheriff's general budget with money I didn't have to spend. I also changed the way we did our briefings. I saved $300,000 a year in overtime by just one decision. And I changed the way we did our video visitation location, saved another $90,000 a year. And they're still enjoying those savings today. With the money just from the overtime, I was able to hire 4 civilian positions for corrections and 1 certified position, and I had money left over. And so there was more money that went back to the main budget, because it's not my money, it's everybody's money, it's the taxpayers' money. So when I can return more back, or I can save more and be efficient with more money is required to run that, more money goes back into the pockets of our citizens and our voters.
That is not a common thing in government.
It is not. And as the president of my HOA board since 2004,
God bless you.
Being physical responsibility with it, you're smart. So I can't get off my board of directors. My neighbors keep saying, no, you have to stay on for life. And because you just be smart with the money. Don't see who's got the best deal on what you need. Don't just spend it because you have it. Government's never been really good with money, but there's so much savings can be done in a lot of the government areas with the budget, and treat it like it's your own budget.
Trust us, we know. We spent 10 years interfacing with the federal R&D community, and that's the waste that I saw was just unbelievable. Unbelievable. But we did kind of get a little bit off topic. I will actually circle back to the topic of the homestead credit that may be being expanded. But, again, my concern is that, a 5-minute drive from my house, there are probably about 1,200 to 1,400 apartment units that have either recently been constructed or are being constructed. I'm watching these buildings and they're not filling up. So I'm just like, what is driving all of this development? It doesn't seem to be demand at this point.
Yeah, I've noticed more apartments in the last 6 months as I travel around the county, and I've noticed, parking lots aren't full, but I don't know why we would build more apartments if the other ones aren't filled up. I'm not sure why they would do that.
Well, right now, I think it has a lot to do with workforce housing. So we're seeing lots of townhomes and cheaply constructed homes and all of this stuff trying to hit these lower price points, trying to attract renters and things like that. And workforce development housing gets exemptions. For an apartment building, in the county, it's usually can only be 3 floors. But if you're workforce housing, you get 4 floors. and then 4 years later, you can then just sell it off and it can be condos. So it's kind of a little bit of a workaround, in my opinion.
Well, first responders, teachers, service industry that don't make large sums of money still deserve to be able to live in the county they serve.
For sure.
And I too rented places when I first started here. Bought my house in 1990. I've been in the same house for the last 30 years. When I bought it in 96, but we need them here right now. A lot of them are driving in from Jacksonville, Green Cove, Palatka, Palm Coast, and so we do need affordable housing here for these folks, because if my house is being broken into and I call 911 and I know there's a deputy next door, how quick is that response?
Right.
Or if you're having a medical emergency, a heart attack, something like that, and the paramedics living next door, how quick is that response? So, some people will say, well, they're not entitled to live in this community. Well, I think they are. If they're going to put their life on the line, they're going to run towards the sound of gunfire or run towards a house on fire, then we want them in our community.
There's also another issue that I don't think people like to think about is I take it you're probably in the boomer generation, but the boomers are aging and they make up a significant part of the population here in St. Johns County. And in 10 or 15 years, they're going to be elderly and they're going to need people to service them, take care of, they're going to need caretakers. Absolutely. Where are they going to live? Are they all going to commute from Jacksonville? You know what I mean? And I don't think, I know that this county is interested in bringing in other industry, but one of the industries, or I think the industry that is going to overtake tourism is going to be elderly care in about 10 to 15 years. And these people are going to need to live someplace. So, I just got to put that out there because I don't think a lot of people are planning for that yet. There doesn't seem to be a lot of elderly care centers coming in. We're going to need hospice workers. We're going to need caretakers. We're going to need nursing assistants. We're going to need all of these people to take care of, I think, a lot of people in your district, to be honest with you,
Right. And, we've noticed over the last 5-10 years, more and more of these visiting angels, my daughter's in town type health care that they go to the people's homes and care for them there. And I think a lot of people here already have their home, or they're going to live in that, or you have like Vickers Landing and a few places up there in Ponte Vedra that have a home where they may sell their home and buy a unit in that, and that's where they stay for their final days. I know there's a few of those out there, but I'm seeing more and more of the home health care businesses coming up and out and about, and the cars are decorated. You see them, they're all over the place. But you're right, the District 4 has a lot of people that are seniors, and it's we're all going to be there one day.
Yeah.
And I want to be able to say I got maybe I play a small role in how we help fix that problem down the road.
The boomers are a particularly large generation, so we have to start thinking, how are we going to take care of them?
Right.
So, my big interests are philosophy and psychology. What are the foundational ideas that will support your governance? What would you say your main values are?
Honesty and leadership. It's so easy to do what's right. Just do what's right all the time. Tell the truth. And when you tell the truth, you don't have to remember what you said. And if you just do what's right all the time, you can end up with a very successful 30-year career at the sheriff's office. And so there's a lot of campaign promises go out. Well, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. Well, you're 1/5 of a vote. You don't know if you can do that. So, a campaign promise that I could make is I'll just do what's right all the time. Because no matter how you vote, somebody's mad at you. But if you did what was right for the community and you put the community and the people first, you sleep well at night. So you won't always agree. If I draw a 6 on the table, you'll look at it and say, well, no, that's a 9.
It's a 9.
Well, neither one of us are wrong. It's until this one gets up and walks around, looks and goes, oh, from your point of view, I do see the 9. Come on my point of view, see it's a 6. Then you start working together and not bickering back and forth or challenging each other, and it's you don't get work done when you're stalled with just disagreements. It's okay to disagree, but move forward. It's as a community we do it, but as in the leadership roles, in the county commission and the heads of these elected officials, you got to work for a good the same common cause. And just do good things and do what's right. That's kind of what's driven me, and that's what propelled me through the ranks at the sheriff's office.
If you tell the truth, you don't have to remember what you said. What responsibilities, if any, does the county or does county government have to preserve beauty, culture, and a sense of place?
I think they've got a strong responsibility. I think it should be part of the overall plan. But we also got to get the community involved because, but I think you pull that community together and say, what would y'all like to see? and then what would y'all like to help with? Because there's so many people in this county that would love to volunteer to help. We get a lot of volunteers at the sheriff's office that just want to come in and help, be a part of a solution, not just a part of a problem. And so I think, you need a round table in any big issues that you put the commissioners at, you put the citizens at, you put even the developers at, you put the first responders, and you put the educators. Because if I make a decision that benefits the educators, does it affect the first responders, or does it affect the citizens? And until you have everybody around the table to hear every ripple effect that what it's going to do, then you're not getting a true picture, or you're not seeing the big picture. If you stand on the edge of a lake and you look at the water and there's a problem on the surface, stand on the lake, you can only see an inch or two below the surface. If you elevate your view, you can see what's the causation of that problem deeper down that water. So you gotta look deeper into what's causing problems. And as a community, they'll pull together and help us. I think it's we have a beautiful town here. We should keep it beautiful, and I think there's people that would help.
I think you're touching upon some very important things that seem to be missing a little bit right now, and that's getting everybody to come together to think about the future and what we're trying to create here. And I think that's unfortunately, I think some of this divisive politics obscures that and prevents some of that from happening, unfortunately. How do you think local government should handle the tension between private property rights and community-wide impacts? This is a tough one.
Yeah. Well, people have property rights. If I have a piece of land that I want to sell, I should be allowed to sell it. If I want to build something on it, I should be allowed to build something on it. Now, I'm not saying that I want to build a 30,000 home community, but if I want to build a house on another piece of property I have and give my children one house, then I should be able to do that. So it's kind of that's a tough question. So we got to understand what the property owner's rights are, and if we don't at least respect those and keep them in mind, then we get sued. Oh well, we're not going to let you change this or do that, and then we get sued and we pay a lawsuit fee, and then we still have to let them do it. So you have to weigh out: is it something we should be doing or not? That's a tough question. It's as I'm learning where I'm about all this processes, I've not dealt with that a whole lot yet.
It is a very tough one because you have individual property rights versus what may be good or bad for the community, for the greatest number of people. Do you believe land use decisions should be guided more by market demand or by shared civic vision, and why?
Well, I think a little bit of both, but the community should be the driving factor. It's what put the people first, let the taxpayers speak, and make your decisions with that as a whole. Again, that table with everybody around it, and say, how will this negatively affect anybody at the table, and just do what's right for the community. Sometimes it might be one side wants lean towards one side. Sometimes it might lean more towards the other. But we got to hear what the community wants, and we got to be better stewards with their taxpayer dollars, because we're going to have less of it, I think, after November.
I think we are too. How do you personally define good growth, and what distinguishes it from simply more growth?
I think good growth are communities that are needed in an area. I think good growth is a school that is built before the area is fully developed. I think good growth would be limited. Good growth is something that occurs after infrastructure is put in place, and after you've spoken with the community and said, how's this, again at the round table, how's this negatively affect first responders? Do we have to have another fire station? Do we have to add deputies because of this? Do we have the infrastructure for this in place first? Do we have the support of the citizens? So again, bring people together. Because we got to figure out what our community wants, because that's what drives us. If the bulk of your community's mad at you, well, you didn't do well. So it's important to get out in our communities and say, what are we doing well? What are we not doing well? Did that my whole career. Go to my boss and say, boss, what am I doing well? What am I doing that I need to do better? Because once I have that list of what I need to do better, I go back, I do better at it, and then I become a better leader because of that. That same principle applies to county commission. Get out in those communities. Have a monthly meeting, town hall meeting. Hey, what have we done well? What have we not done well? Here's some things we're thinking about doing. Please tell us. Give us some feedback. Let us know what you want before it comes time for Tuesday morning, because Tuesday morning, everything's up and running. But
so you would be willing to go out and have a monthly town hall? Because I was going to ask you, how were you going to get this feedback? Because a lot of times with county commissions, the common complaint is we see them during election time and then we don't see them the rest of the time.
Right. No, I'm a people person, and law enforcement did that to me. It created me into this person that wants to go out. I would be riding in my zone, and somebody's out in their yard working in their garden. I'd stop and get out of the car and go ask them, how's the sheriff's office doing in your view? Is there something we can do better?
So you'd be willing to have like a monthly coffee with Sam Williams or a monthly town hall meeting with Sam Williams?
Absolutely, because how else are you going to really know? Because you can have 10 people send you 40 emails. That doesn't mean 40 people are telling you what they want to know. You could have phone calls from the same group, 10 people, but until you get out, because some people don't want to get involved.
Right.
But if you're having a town hall meeting in their neighborhood where they can drive 2 or 3 miles, then they go, well, let's go see what he's got to say. And then once they learn, this commissioner is willing to be here, be present, be transparent, and say, this is what they're thinking about doing. They're looking for feedback, and they also want to know what are we doing well, what are we not doing well, because you won't get better if you don't know what they want you to do better. So the citizens are the boss. Go talk to your boss and say, what can I do better? Because we can always be better tomorrow than we were today.
Right on. Okay, let's switch up a little bit. Big reason why I got into St. Johns County and St. Augustine politics recently was because I wanted to understand why St. Augustine, the town of St. Augustine, its public spaces look so bad. I think this is an amazing town, and I believe that beautification and preservation of this town should be a priority. So let's talk about county and city relations. This is something I did not really understand, but there's actually a rift between the city and the county. It's actually pretty serious. The county, and here's an issue. County tourism agencies push for ever more tourism while reinvesting very little back into the city, while the county collects the tax receipts. Meanwhile, many of the public spaces appear neglected, and beautification is treated like a dirty word. Is St. Augustine a place worth preserving, not just in rhetoric, but in real funding?
Absolutely. It's the nation's oldest city, and it's the county seat for the beautiful county we live in. And there's so many places in this county that are just absolutely picturesque. Our beaches, our parks, our agricultural areas, they all have their own beauty. And yes, we should work on trying to have as beautiful of a place here in the city of St. Augustine. When I worked at Neptune Beach a couple of years ago, I saw their folks during a storm. If a tree branch fell down near the edge of the road, crew went out, picked it up, cut it up, put it in a truck, and left. And when the storm cleared, the roads were already beautiful again. So, it's possible. We just have, and of course, I don't know how to arrange that, if it's something that the county could do, or if it's something the city needs to do. But yeah, we should be trying to keep this as beautiful as you can,
I think the issue is cooperation between the city and the county, and currently right now there's more of a rift, and one I don't want to put words into anybody's mouth, but it seems like, one person thinks they're the big dog and you're just this little provincial parochial folks over here and you guys don't matter.
Yeah, so maybe at that round table we add city folks and beach PD folks too, that because they too would have effects on decisions made in the county.
Yep.
So include them in that, and again, work together. There's solutions out there, but there's problems out there, and there's more problems coming.
There are.
If given the opportunity, I've had a 30 plus year career in problem solving, and a lot of it's been very high stress problem solving that has to be done within seconds. You bring that to your community. It can be used as a county commissioner as well, and go into these things looking for solutions, not arguments. If elected to a county commission, I'll be a part of future solutions, not future problems.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we were surprised about working with federal R&D for as long as we did was that they didn't parse the problems. Yeah. They just were handed requirements from some place, and then they didn't parse the problems, and then they didn't take the time to understand the different solution sets. And that just shocked me because I'm like, this is R&D, and we don't end up with the capabilities we need in a timely fashion. So really shocked me. So I'm glad to hear you're talking about parsing problems and understanding solution sets. It's really important.
It is. And surround yourself with those that are smarter than you that help you find those solutions, because county commissioner can't know everything, can't fix everything, but you got to know people you can go to for the help. How do we leverage technology? How do we leverage knowledge from other folks? There's business owners around here that have different thoughts on things that we need to listen to, because we're not going to know everything.
Okay, now I'm going to ask you just some miscellaneous questions. First of all, has St. Johns County politics always been this fear and outrage base? And why do you think it has found such a receptive audience this political season?
Well, as for the first part, I never noticed it before. This has been a new thing in the last few years that I've noticed that our county commission meetings have gotten very divisive. It's to a point of a little embarrassing, because I've poured half my life into this community, and I remember when representatives got up and represented, and now it's, I don't know if people get into it because they want some power or they want a title. Well, that's not me. I've already had power. I've already had a title, and there's no more power that can be given to an individual than being in law enforcement. So sometimes I think people get power hungry. They're maybe in it for the wrong reason. We've got to put this community first. That's our job. So as for, I think that's kind of a new. If it was going on before, I didn't notice it. But now, just turn on the TV and watch. It's sometimes it's just embarrassing.
I don't enjoy it. Okay. This is a tough one for you, I think. We'll see. Having interfaced with DC for many years, I am dubious of lifelong government workers and bureaucrats to create positive change. In my experience, they generally uphold the status quo. What do you think is currently working well? Because I think there is a lot of things working well in St. Johns County. And what do you think needs improvement? And how might you overcome an entrenched status quo?
Well, I've never been one for status quo. I believe in doing what's right. If you do what's right and you tell the truth, a lot of times you go against the grain. But when you're invested in a community like I am, you're not going to just go do your 8 and hit the gate kind of thing. You're not going to just do the basic, I can do this and then I can go home. I don't want to go home until I've done something good. And so it's we've just got to find people that are from here that want this place, remember what it was like in the 70s and 80s, and try and minimize how much change comes to that. Although there's change is inevitable. But you've got to be invested in this community and say, no, it's not. The government will spend whatever they can in most places, but I've got a proven record that I don't. If I don't need the money, I'm gonna send it back. How excited would taxpayers be if we go, we didn't need all this money this year, we're gonna roll back your taxes, because if we're smart with the money, and we can do it, we should do it. This next year is going to be kind of challenging with this tax exempt, and if that's the case, I look forward to an opportunity to be part of that solution.
Okay, St. Johns County recently approved a Comprehensive Plan 2050. The document purports to be future-looking, but leaves out data centers. This will fall under the policies that seek to attract industry. In my opinion, this leaves St. Johns County wide open for data centers. What are your thoughts about this?
Well, we've become a bedroom community years ago. Everybody lives here, works in Jacksonville, works somewhere else.
Especially up in District 4 in the north part of the county.
Yeah. And so, I'm for creating some new industry, but I want an industry that's not going to harm our community, not harm our environment. From what I understand is I think there's a current consideration of moratorium on data centers in our county, and everything I hear about them is they use a lot of water,
and electricity.
And the ground vibrates the residences anywhere near them from the cooling system, I guess. But if it's something, again, what did your community ask you to do? And I promise you, the ones I've talked to would say no data centers.
Right.
And if that's what our community wants, that's what we should do. And I think there's a revenue source there.
Sure.
But that may be a solution, but is it the right solution for our community?
If your tenure were to be judged purely on what you preserved, not what you built or what was built during your tenure, what would you hope that to be?
Bringing people together. Bring the community together to solve problems, because we can't do it by ourselves. I think that all 5 county commissioners, plus all your elected officials, within county constitutional officers and the community, I think you've got to pull all these folks together. And if you do that, your problems going forward are going to be lessened. I think that if you have a team that's forward-looking, forward-planning, from an elevated view, that you can see the problems starting to arise. So many problems. Why didn't you see that 2 years ago, 3 years ago? It was coming. It was telling you. Address those problems early. I think. After my time as a county commissioner, people would go, well, he was a uniter, not a divider.
St. Johns County, in my opinion, has been very retro in its zoning and planning. In effect, it has created a massive built environment from scratch in less than a decade. It is mainly cul-de-sac communities of various sizes, and in between, routine approval for gas stations, storage yard, fast food, and strip malls. Essentially, it has thumbed its nose at smart growth principles, lessons learned, and best practices. If we continue business as usual, what will the kids of today inherit in 40 years? What will the legacy be of today's governance?
That's a great question. I think, first of all, a change in commissioners may be a change in the way things are done. I think that we have to plan for our future. We have to maintain a certain amount of agriculture in our community. We have to maintain a clean environment, a safe environment for our kids to grow up into, and our grandkids to grow up into. We have a really wonderful community here, almost like we're living in a bubble, because we don't have the crime that some surrounding counties do, and we got really good schools. But will we keep really good schools and really good teachers if we're not paying them enough? Will we keep plenty of law enforcement and firefighters, paramedics, if we're not paying them enough? So we need to work together a little differently to turn this into something that we want to retire in, that we want our kids to retire in, and our grandkids to grow up and have professional jobs here in our community. Because if we're not, we're just going to end up with a lot of neighborhoods, a lot of gas stations, and we gotta be smarter than that.
I know a big value of mine is stewardship. It's a little out of fashion right now, but that to me is what conservatism is in a nutshell: stewardship. So, right now we are existing in a populist wave right now, which is different from conservatism. This year, there's a likelihood that voters will approve of expanding the homestead credit. This will put a significant dent into county revenue. What challenges do you think this poses?
It's going to be a challenge to figure out if there's any government spending waste that we need to address. We're going to need to be smarter in how we do things, more efficient. How can we, as they say, trim the fat out of the budget? But there's going to be so much lost out of that budget. We're going to have to find other ways to come up with the money. But the bulk of what will be left, if that goes into effect, will cover first responders. But it's going to take away from parks and recs and so many other areas in the county that we're going to need money for. So we're going to have to. That's going to be a solution I look forward to being a part of. But you got to get the right people around you with the knowledge to help you steer that into a direction that makes it a successful outcome.
Luckily, when it comes to parks and recs, St. Johns County has had the smarts to have a St. Johns County Parks and Rec Foundation, where it's able to accept money from other sources to be able to put into the park system, which I think is brilliant. So it may be expanding how it gets revenue, not just from taxpayers.
Right. Yes. That any time that we can get grants or anything that would help us move forward, but we just have to be careful with grants too, because if a grant comes from the state, they may say, here's some money that will help you with your budget, and here's our conditions.
Yep.
And then at some point, is St. Johns County running St. Johns County, or is Tallahassee running St. Johns County? Right. I think home rule is where it should be. I think the citizens here know what they want more than what people in Tallahassee might want, and we should be focused on that. We may have to take money from them, but as county commissioners, if you build good relationships with Tallahassee, maybe you can steer that a little.
Right.
Maybe we can get more funding in. There was a year in the past we brought zero funding in from Tallahassee. We've got to keep bringing that money in with limited conditions, because we should be able to say St. Johns County wants St. Johns County to look like this, not what somebody 4 hours away says.
I'm actually kind of fascinated with this because St. Johns County came up with its comprehensive plan 2050, which I mentioned earlier, sent it to the state, and the state said, nope, it's too restrictive. And I found that funny because, I didn't see the slow growth people getting up in arms that the state just overrode what, we put forward, which would have restricted development and growth.
Yeah.
So.
They had to rework it, water it down, and send it back. And so it's that's something that's still got to be revamped and looked at again. Or if we can adjust that later. Sometimes a change in seats may be able to make that more accessible to be done. But you got to build those relationships. You gotta understand what it takes to get money brought into the county. What different areas? There may be revenue streams out there we're not aware of that we just have to search out, and we just surround yourselves with smart people. A successful CEO surrounds himself with smarter people than himself.
Yep.
And that's what we just got to do. We got to leverage whatever knowledge and technology we can get to find what will help our community.
You strike me as a person who listens more than they talk.
That's why God gave us two eyes, 2 ears, and 1 mouth. We should watch and listen more than we talk.
Something I could learn from. Okay, some fun questions. If you could fix one thing overnight, no budget constraints, what would it be?
Traffic. It's traffic, because you're putting 6 pounds of sand in a 5 pound bag. It's there's some better ways we could do. There's some light timing changes. There's some lane issues that can be fixed, and you might not realize it until you've worked in law enforcement and you've stood in that intersection for 4 hours directing traffic.
Oh man.
So yeah, I think that's the complaint. So I say that because I talk to a lot of people. What needs to be done, what needs to be changed, and that's the biggest one. The overdevelopment, is some people use that as a catchphrase to try and work aside, but it's the overdevelopment's causing the traffic.
Yes.
So it's all the same problem. But most people I talk to say that traffic, and I watch some of these lights and I look at some of these lanes and I go, wow, if they'd have painted that line another 50 feet back, it would relieve some of this traffic. Mm-hmm. If they changed the timing on that light. During the week of TPC in the spring in Ponte Vedra was the worst traffic ever. Mm-hmm. It was like trying to get into DC. Well, about 10 years ago, they started with traffic engineers up there in the sheriff's command post, adjusting the timing of Solana Road and A1A on the fly and along other intersections. And now, the week of TPC is the best week to drive through Ponte Vedra. So we know a solution, but how do you fund 2 or 3 people to 8-10 hours a day to sit there and adjust traffic lights on the fly with a computer? But that is a solution.
Yes.
How do we fund it? Do we have the manpower that can be brought from one place to another to do that? But solutions like that, we got to start thinking outside the box, and we already know it works.
Yep.
We saw it work, and they know it works. Why are you only doing this 1 week a year, other than the lot of money that TPC brings in?
I learned a long time ago that the best traffic management tool is the humble street light,
Yep.
or the humble traffic light. What's something about you that people in St. Johns County would be surprised by?
Wow, as a I guess as a retired 30-plus year law enforcement officer, is maybe as easygoing as I am. I don't get excited easy. I don't lose my temper. Don't raise my voice. It's and that's what you need particularly when these scenes of officer-involved shootings and stuff, and been shot at twice, been run over twice. I'm still here. So I think there's more I'm supposed to be doing. It's we get one opportunity on this rock to do good things, and one day I hope when I'm at the gates they say, "Good and faithful servant, come on in."
Well, I mean, and doing 22 years on the HOA board, it says something to me. I mean, that's not easy.
It's not. But again, if you do what's right, our dues aren't a lot. But in 08, 09, when the economy took a downturn and some people lost jobs or had lost income, one of our neighbors couldn't pay his dues. And as a board member, I wrote a check for his dues. And they said, "You can't do that." And I said, No, I can. I just did. And they said, "Well, you're going to start a bad precedent." And I said, "A bad precedent of being a good neighbor?"
Being charitable.
Yeah. I said, I work at the sheriff's office. My check hasn't changed. I may not get a pay raise that year, but I could afford a few $100s to fix that. Another neighbor, the management company was going to send a letter about pine needles on her roof, and she was in her 70s. I said, "Hold off on that." Me and my wife took a ladder and my leaf blower down to their house, got on her roof with her permission, cleaned her roof, put it in a trash bag, put it out by the street corner for her, and took a picture of the roof, sent it back to the management company. Those are the things that you do for a community. And I probably did it a little bit more for my HOA when I was off, but that's what you do, and that's why my neighborhood says, "Sam, you can never get off this board." Just treat people the way you want to be treated. It's pretty easy.
Yeah, being charitable. I can tell you're a believer. It comes through. So what's one thing that you've changed your mind about in the last few years?
Retirement. I retired in October of 2020 from the sheriff's office. Took some time off, did some small jobs here and there, trying to find my purpose, trying to find what fills my bucket, find that what plan should I be on, where should I be, and what should I be doing. And I'm a servant. I'm a public servant. So when I saw that this seat was coming up, I said, I think that's for me. This county commission, like law enforcement, is a calling. Not everybody can do it. And people may want to do it and can't do it. And then there's people that can do it that maybe won't. But if you can, you should.
All right, we're getting into the final stretch here. What does success look like after your first term?
Wow. A better, united community that has hit several benchmarks that we set to accomplish as a county and as a community and as a board. To leave it better than I found it, which could be measured in multiple ways. But the goal is get up and do better today than we did yesterday.
Right on. I'd like to see St. Johns County and St. Augustine develop a more sort of health and fitness-minded culture. One of the things that came through District 4 in this last year was the Ironman, and this caused a bit of contention because it appeared that it was poorly planned for. And the current person sitting in seat 4 was very much against it. What are your thoughts on this event? Should it come through St. Johns County? Is it a good example? Does it help or does it harm the community?
Well, I think if it's done right, I think if it's communicated well, and I think if it's planned better, and again, I'll go back to time on a motorcycle at the sheriff's office. You understand routes that you would travel routes that you would put certain things, parades, 5K runs, bicycle rides, things like that. And those are the subject matter experts in how you do that with the least amount of interference in the other traffic. So if it, whether it came through St. Johns County again, it's going to be up to the sheriff actually. But with the proper planning and better communication, I think it would cause less problems. At the sheriff's office, we had 5 years ago a way of picking out a geographical area and sending messages to every phone in that area, cell phones, home phones, with a message. Hey, in 1 month, this Ironman's coming up. There's a meeting with the commissioners next week in the town hall meeting in the area, and they'll educate some there. And then in 2 weeks we're having this event. And then the day before, don't forget, tomorrow this event's coming out, and people will know. Because I saw it on the news 2 or 3 days beforehand, but and so many times, people are busy. They don't catch the news. But if they get a text on their phone, they'll read it. So we just got to be better at communicating. Any problem with an organization, a group, an employment, or a community is the biggest problem has always been communication. You have to communicate. That's why, hence the town hall meetings. If there was town hall meetings every month, there would have been people learning about this way in advance. And I think most of the problems that we had was people didn't know, and there was times where people couldn't get out of their neighborhood. We got to plan that better, and it could be done better.
Communication. That's some pretty cool tech that St. Johns County has.
It's not difficult. Again, it's just doing what's right. And life gets busy, and somebody must have missed it, or it was communicated, just not communicated as good as maybe it could have been.
Well, Sam, that's it for us today. I want to thank you for sitting down with us here at St. Augustine TV. Again, this is Sam Williams, running for County Commission, District 4. Thanks, Sam.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for watching. For more local St. Augustine content, don't forget to like and subscribe.